So let's do something different. I usually reflect on the movies that I see, but I want to try something, and I want to kind of see how it works, and try reflecting on a type of movie or a theme that I see in movies. And I want to ask the question, for the so-called colorblind people, right? For the people who think like the answer to racism is to not acknowledge race and not talk about race. How do you watch movies? Like, how do you even do it? I understand, of course, that somebody in that mindset wouldn't like anti-racism movies, right? Like you're not going to enjoy Black Klansman or The 13th. You'll kind of think that those movies that are designed to be anti-racist and that talk about the issue of racism are racist because they're about race. But like, did you enjoy Karate Kid? And did you notice that Mr. Miyagi was Okinawan and Kreese was not? Because that's important, right? Like that colored the theming and the narrative of the film. Like if you miss that, you're missing some of what made the film enjoyable and what built up the characters to be what they were, as various kinds of karate senseis. Or like what about Joe Pesci? Like, do you see Joe Pesci and just be like, I don't know, he's a person? Or do you notice that he's Italian? And does it matter in the narratives that he plays an Italian person? Because I think it's obvious, and I don't think it's a racist thing to like see that race is there. And if you don't, like, I don't know how you're experiencing the world at all, because people's race affect their experience. And we don't have to like start ranking people and saying greater than, less than on the basis of race in order to recognize that like the stories people tell are impacted by their physical and cultural and emotional attributes. And I think that's part of, it's one of the big reasons why representation matters. It's one of the big reasons I think a lot of people celebrate when they see more diversity coming to Hollywood. Usually it gets talked about in the context of, it'll be so great for the little kids of color, like it'll be so great for the children who are the same color as these characters that are getting represented, because they will have positive role models to look up to. But it's also really important for people like me to be able to understand the way, through it being represented, to be able to hear stories about how my life might be different if I were a different culture, even in contexts and even in stories unlike Black Klansman or 13 that aren't explicitly about racism, right? Like ways in which my life would be impacted just on an average day before I encounter a person of a majority race, because it would, and it impacts. I think a lot of the resistance to it is like, no, if we talk about race, we're automatically going to talk about white people being racist against that race. And we don't have to. There's a lot of parts of life that race impacts stories and race impacts characters independent of that, in addition to lots of places where racism does impact characters. And I, for one, would like to be able to engage in like a full-throated conversation about the gamut of good human stories that are possible. How about you?